I was as surprised as all of you when I heard that Royal Caribbean was changing up its 2027-2028 deployments by moving more of its ships over from the West Coast to Asia. And I wanted to talk about this move because a lot of people are really worried about it. Not so much about, obviously, cruise ships going to Asia and Australia, which is good news for the folks that live there, but more about what does this mean for the West Coast cruise market? Because this has been an area that traditionally has been very hit or miss for Royal Caribbean. I mean, they went about 10 years without any ships over on the West Coast, and then they slowly started ramping ships up. At first, it was just Navigator of the Seas, and they've added more ships more recently. In fact, they added Serenade of the Seas to offer cruises out of San Diego for the first time. But that looks like maybe that trend is reversing itself as they move more ships. Now, Royal Caribbean didn't just move more ships over to Asia and Australia. They canceled a bunch of sailings for Navigator and Ovation in order to move them earlier over to Asia. Going forward, Navigator of the Seas will be based in Singapore for a year-round deployment. That's a big change for Royal Caribbean, having a ship there all year round. In addition, Ovation of the Seas will sail from Brisbane, Australia, and that'll offer even more cruises down under. So why did Royal Caribbean make this change? Well, of course, they're not going to give us the nuts and bolts of why they make these changes, but we can only speculate. And if I know Royal Caribbean as much as I do based on everything I've seen over the last couple of years, there's got to be one reason, that's one reason only, and that's got to be the money. I mean, they're clearly got to make more money where they're going. You can say a lot of things about what Royal Caribbean does, but at the end of the day, they usually follow the money, and they will put their ships almost anywhere if it means they'll make more money out of it. This is the reason why we see Icon-class ships sailing out of Florida all the time. It's the number one cruise market. They put them there. I mean, yeah, Legend of the Seas is starting over in Europe this year, but guess where it's going in the winter? Back to Florida, right? And we kind of see where Royal Caribbean looks at all of its deployments as really representations of how well that cruise market is doing. Prior to 2020 and prior to Royal Caribbean resuming cruises on the West Coast, this was a constant question. When will Royal Caribbean offer more cruises from California? And the answer was always simple. They just can't make as much money there as they can somewhere else. When you look at the prices for Carnival and Princess, which primarily dominate the LA cruise market, they're usually much lower. Now, fast forward to today, and that's definitely the case. I mean, you will always find some of the cheapest cruise deals, especially at the last minute, over at LA. You'll find the most casino offers from cruises out of LA. That's a very telling sign to me because that basically means we can't sell these cruise ships. We're not selling them out completely, let's put it that way. I was actually looking to send one of our staff members over to LA because there's a 3-night cruise for $189 a person, which is absolutely insane. I mean, it's a 3-night cruise, don't get me wrong, but still, you're not going to find those kind of cruise deals, even in September, over here in Florida, which is, by the way, right in the middle of hurricane season and school back in session. Now, I've heard all sorts of reasons why the itineraries just don't sell as well for Royal Caribbean as they do for Carnival. Number one reason usually is lack of itinerary imagination. I mean, it's cool to do once, but basically Royal Caribbean only offers the same sailings all the time down in the Mexican Riviera. It's some combination of Ensenada, maybe Catalina Island, Cabo, Puerto Vallarta, etc. Now, to be fair, I have no idea what Carnival and Princess do. Maybe they have more varied itineraries. They go to more places than that. But at the same time, I mean, there's only so many choices you can have. Ultimately, I don't think the cruises out of LA are necessarily unprofitable by any means. I mean, I think they're still making money off it. The difference is they make more money by offering cruises out of Asia and Australia. What I thought might have happened this time around, and it hasn't been announced yet, but I think it's coming, is that Australia will start becoming a year-round destination. I mean, Royal Caribbean's building their Lepa destination down there, and if they're building something like that, I'm not sure that's necessarily meant for a seasonal market. I could be wrong on that because, of course, Santorini over in Greece also is a beach club, and I'm not sure Royal Caribbean's necessarily gearing up for a year-round deployment in Europe, but it is part of the equation. The other X factor is China, and this has always been one of the big looming targets for Royal Caribbean. Prior to 2020, China was one of its biggest markets. It was really growing, and Royal Caribbean was clearly the dominant leader in offering cruises there. Now, after COVID, it was really slow to reopen. I mean, the US and Europe reopened pretty quickly, but China really took its sweet time. And even after that, it seemed like there was a bit of a lag factor where demand wasn't quite there. So Royal Caribbean had these extra ships, and I think they put them over on the West Coast because where else are they going to put them? But now we're starting to see that market open up. And you can see that in the fact that not only are these ships being deployed to Australia, which is obviously a big market, but Singapore, where a lot of Chinese tourists go to, and also cruises out of China on Voyager of the Seas and over in Japan. I think Royal Caribbean has always seen China as its secret weapon in terms of revenue. I mean, they can count on Alaska, North America, Caribbean, European sailings. Those are always going to be about what they expect it to be, and they'll grow slowly over time. but China could be the difference between making whatever they usually make and like double that or something like that. I mean, the amount of people that live there by virtue of that is going to possibly add so many more people. But the Chinese cruise market is like the US cruise market was like 30 years ago. It's still growing. People have to be exposed to the product. So it needs to get there. It needs to be nurtured a little bit. Nonetheless, I think Royal Caribbean sees this change. And the fact that they're making these changes, they're not just sending ships over. They're canceling cruises and then sending these ships over. That means they see blood in the water. I mean, they see like, we've got to get these ships over sooner than we expected because there's got to be demand there. I mean, one thing I've noticed about Royal Caribbean is that they pay close attention to what the numbers tell them. And if the numbers are telling them there's real opportunity there, there's real opportunity there. And so I think this is all about money. I mean, sure, I think they would love to offer more cruises out of LA. And no, I don't think this is the end of the LA cruise market altogether. I think Royal Caribbean will always find an opportunity there, especially considering that as of right now, Australia is not a full-time or full year, I should say, cruise market. And on top of that, their ship fleet is growing. There's going to be more ships to go somewhere. And I think there will always be a ship there. I really cannot imagine a situation in which they pull out of the LA cruise market. That being said, will there be 3 ships there? Will it be one of your favorite ships there? I'm not so sure. And the other question, of course, something that's come up a lot, even when Royal Caribbean's been offering cruises out of LA, is when will they bring bigger ships there? Like the Oasis class or even an Icon class ship, which is, by the way, a question that Royal Caribbean was asked last year at the President's Cruise, and they danced around it a little bit. They didn't say no. Sometimes when people ask, outlandish questions, they say, no, that's not going to happen. But they kind of danced around it. So it's entirely possible that this is the first shoe to fall. You got to move ships out of the way in order to bring a bigger ship in. But from a PR standpoint, I'm sure you would want to maybe be like, by the way, there's also something else coming there, but I digress. I don't think, again, this is the end of the LA cruise market. But if you're someone who likes to cruise out of the West Coast, it's probably not great news for you unless there is another shoe to drop. If there's not, I would say worst case scenario. But the scenario in which I can envision as being one of the worst cases is you're going to end up with like one ship again, similar to what Navigator did for a number of years when cruises restarted in 2021. Again, I don't know what ship it'll be. And what'll happen after 2028, who knows? I mean, they could send more ships back here. It's anyone's guess. And by the way, we're also waiting for that new 2028 deployment to come out. That'll be happening here in the fall. We'll start getting some of the cruises like Seven Night Caribbean, Alaska, and Europe in the fall, and then the rest probably in the spring. So there's still more to come. This is like, again, step like A out of like 17 that's coming down here. But I'm not sure yet if you're a West Coast cruiser, you need to be panicking. It's not great news, obviously, especially with the cancellations and what's left over as a result. But I do believe that LA cruise market is not dead, and there will still be Royal Caribbean ships sailing from LA. Remember, Los Angeles recently announced that San Pedro cruise terminal is going to be revamped or amplified or rebuilt, whatever the case may be. So I think there's potential there, and I don't think that Royal Caribbean is going to completely give up on it. But as of right now, it appears that they're pushing the brakes a little bit. They're pumping the brakes. I think that's the right metaphor. And they're maybe slowing it down. But hopefully something bigger will come out there. In the meantime, if you're listening to us and you're over in the Asia cruise market, Australia, which we have a lot of listeners to, I mean, this is great news for you all because this really means that Royal Caribbean is now putting its money where its mouth is and putting more of its chips in that market. Sure, I'm sure you would love also an Icon or an Oasis class ship. Who wouldn't, right? But you got to start somewhere, and this is definitely starting somewhere. Okay, friends, time to answer listener emails, and our first email this week is from Charlotte. Hello, love the YouTube channel. We booked our first Royal Caribbean cruise, and I bought the unlimited dining package. I did it the first day I saw prices listed for restaurants on the app, and while booking the package, I was able to book Chops Grill and Giovanni's, but Azumi was not given as an option. Will this be available to book when I get on board? Also, will I be able to book a lunch reservation for the one sea day on our cruise on board? I wasn't given that option either on the booking for the package, though they advertise lunch on sea days included for it. Charlotte, thanks for the email, and the answer is, I'll start in reverse order. Yeah, lunch is fine. You really don't even, I would say you should make a reservation, why not? But yes, lunch will be available for you, no problem at all, on board the ship. You could even walk in. The thing is, lunch is far less busy at all, especially restaurants. People are busy at the pool deck and doing all sorts of things, but you'll have no problem at all getting into lunch for there, so that's good to know. As for Azumi, yes, it will be available to book when you get on board the ship. I would recommend you go there immediately on embarkation day and try to make the reservation quick because it is one of the more popular restaurants, especially if you're trying to do the hibachi. If you're doing the sushi side, it's less of an issue in terms of popularity, but I would go on embarkation day. My advice, as soon as you get on board the ship, just make a reservation and get that knocked out, and you should be good to go there. Next email is from Chris. Hi, Matt. I have a loyalty question regarding points. I have more Crown Anchor points than my wife. We're both diamond. I did the status match. On the app, she now shows as having my points level since we matched. My question is, if she does a solo booking with her points, will her points count towards my higher total, or will they absorb because she really doesn't have the point total? Basically, if in this scenario in which you have more points, she gets the points. It's not a pooled situation, and even though you have the more points of the couple, it doesn't go towards you. It's basically whoever goes on the cruise gets the points. So let's say you have 100 points and your wife has 80 points, just for easy math here, and your wife goes on a 7-night cruise by herself, so she gets 14 points. They go to her and not to you. So I hope that makes sense there. Chris also writes, likewise, if we're on the same cruise and I do have someone with me and she's cruising solo, how would the points for her cabin be applied? Same exact scenario. So in, let's say you're sharing the room with the kid and your wife is solo in the room by herself, you would get 7 points on a 7-night cruise, she get 14, but your point totals will increase separately. Now, whoever has the most points of the two of you is let's say the dominant person in the Crown and Anchor relationship, and that's whose point total would be reflected in your account when you look it up. Our next email is from Darren Robinson. Hi, Matt. Darren from London, England here. You've helped me and my family massively with planning our last cruise on Allure of the Seas. Thanks for your honest content. Myself and my wife have booked another cruise for May of 2027 on Allure, again from Fort Lauderdale, on a 7-night Eastern Caribbean cruise. When I opened the Royal Caribbean app, I noticed the gangway uptime is on until 7:30 p.m., and the ship is not due to leave until 8. I thought this was a little late, as the last cruise we departed about 4 o'clock. I started doing some research and found that Allure of the Seas is sailing from Miami the previous week and has the cruise ending in Miami on the morning of our cruise. I assume the ship will disembark all passengers in Miami and then set sail for Fort Lauderdale. Have you ever heard of this happening before? I have not. I've definitely seen deadheading, in which a ship, comes into port and then will disembark its passengers and then move over to a different port. But usually that's like a one-day process, overnight, and they don't have any passengers on board. So I'm really surprised. You mentioned here May of 27, and forgive me for not taking 10 minutes to go dive into this cruise schedule here. But that is unusual for sure. At first I thought you were going to say you just have a late, boarding time. If that's true, that's very unusual. Let's put it that way. I can't say I've ever seen it. Like I said, 99% of the time, what I've seen before is folks who the ship again comes in the day before, drops off everybody at one port, and then moves to a different port with an overnight with nobody on board in terms of passengers. So strange for sure, if it's true. Our next email is from Joe. Hi, Matt. If you had to pick your number one spot near the port for each island, Aruba, Curacao, and Bonaire, what would they be? I think I remember you mentioning getting a resort day pass is the best option for Aruba. Yeah, near the port, I don't really have a good one. Curacao is the best one for this because you can actually walk from where your ship docks to the downtown area of Williamstead. It's pretty easy. I can do it, so that's all you need to know about that. But Bonaire has a little shopping area. I mean, they all have like shopping areas around them and like, bars and restaurants, but nothing is like, ooh, that's exciting. Curacao actually has a decent downtown because it's like actually the city. Aruba, it's just more of just tourist trap sprawl. It's not bad, but it's not great either. And I wouldn't tell anybody, hey, this is the best thing to do. In Aruba, for sure, what I recommend doing is going to resortforaday.com. Riu Palace is what I'd recommend, the family one. There's an adult one also. I mean, whether you have kids or not, it's irrelevant. I think the family one is better. Bonaire is tough. There's really nothing going on in Bonaire. It's really about diving and scuba and anything like that. If you're into that, boy, it's wonderful. But on the island itself, especially near the port, I mean, there's a few bars and restaurants. They're okay, but nothing that I'd be like, hey, this is really, really good. So, yeah, it's kind of lacking in that regard. Next email is from Gavin. Hey, Matt. After experiencing a junior suite on Star of the Seas, I'm looking to upgrade if I go on Hero. What would be the next step up that would give me Sky class amenities? Is there some sort of a resource I could find to show the hierarchy of Icon class suites? Thanks for continued help for all royal enthusiasts. So the answer to your question is the Grand Suite. It basically goes for all ships, Junior Suite, right? That's C class. And then it goes a Grand Suite, Owner's Suite, in that order. And then after that, it gets a little murky. It depends on pricing and like demand and things of that nature. But there's all sorts of other Sky class and suites available for you. We have some articles at RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com. If you go to Google and search Royal Caribbean Blog Sky Class suites in general. You'll find, I'm sure, the list of them over there. But Grand Suite is your next step up. They are the entryway into the main suites. They contain all the perks and benefits you get of a suite. Sky Class certainly benefits. But they tend to be the least expensive Sky Class suite, generally speaking. And it's true pretty much of the entire fleet, not just the Icon class. Next email is from Julie. I have a question regarding the upcoming booking and the Double Crown anchor points for sailings between September 26 and April 2027. I currently have booked Star of the Seas for January of 2027, but it doesn't qualify for double points because it was already booked prior to the promotion. I was wondering if you think it's worth to change the sailing and pay the $400 change fee, because we have 4 people in the room, so $100 a person, to pick a different week to go and get the double points. I'm working towards diamond status. Now, obviously, this email, the promotion's already run out of time, so I hope you made your decision, Julie. Personally, I would have told you not to do it. $400 is a lot. I don't think it's worth it for double points. I would just tell you, Julie, you're better off booking another cruise. I mean, that serves 2 purposes. It gets you to more points, and it gets you an excuse to go on another cruise, which is even better. I think the double point, and I'm putting my money where my mouth is on this, ladies and gentlemen, because I did not book any cruises during double points because I already had all my cruises booked, and it did not make sense, in my opinion, to incur a $100-$200 change fee in order to get double points. Now, you might say, well, Matt, you're not really chasing status. Well, I'm not chasing status, but I am still chasing points. You have to remember, for Pinnacle Club members, even though I'm a Pinnacle Club member, we get a free cruise every 350 points. So it's definitely in my best interest to get more points. But I think at the end of the day, saving money and getting a better deal is a better idea. Obviously, if you had a refundable cruise fare, sure, knock yourself out. That would make sense. But in your case, especially $400, that's a lot of money. I mean, that's not a cabana, but I mean, it could be a decent shore excursion. It could be a drink package. It could be a lot of different things. It could be the down payment for another cruise. So I really feel like you're better off, quite frankly, just not doing that. In fact, Julie, and kind of sticking with what you have. I'm curious what you ended up doing in the end of it, but I wouldn't fault you. I wouldn't say it's the worst idea. I just personally don't think I would have. If you still had time, I would have said, don't do it. I don't think it's worth the ROI, quite frankly. Next email is from Kelly Berger. I'm taking my son and daughter-in-law on their first cruise in September, and we're going to Cozumel on Harmony of the Seas. We're looking for videos to watch to show her what Cozumel is like. And of course, since I love your blog so much, we looked for one of yours. The only one we found was from several years ago, and it wasn't as good as the videos you're doing today. I can see how your personality and style have evolved into what they are today. I was wondering if you have a newer Cozumel video that I could find, or if you're planning on making a new one in the future. Thank you for it's a compliment. Yes, my videos in the past were not great, so I'll be the first to admit that. The answer is no, we're not doing another video on Cozumel or any destination. The problem, when we do destination videos, they always do terribly. I mean, yeah, folks like yourself, Kelly, who were interested at the time to go there, would watch it. But most people, vast majority, will be like, oh, I'm not going to Cozumel, or I don't care, so they're not going to watch the video. So we try to make videos that are more wide, have a wider appeal to our audience, and that's kind of how we look at it that way. We do write articles occasionally and update them at RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com, but my recommendation for you, number one thing without a shadow of a doubt, is Paradise Beach, not through Royal Caribbean. You have to just Google it, book it on your own, and I'm sure you'll find I love it there. It's fantastic, good for families, good for adults, good for anybody. I mean, it just works on many levels, good value. I'd recommend that quite a bit. Next email is from Chicago GP. Thanks, as always, for your sage Royal Caribbean cruising advice and for providing all of us with a great escape in between cruises. I have a friends and family cruise coming up this November on Mariner with about 25 people. Big shout out to Lindy at MEI Travel for coordinating everything for us. Outside of my immediate family, most of the group are either first-time cruisers or people who have not cruised in 15 years or more. As we're approaching the final payment date, a couple of the friends and families are getting cold feet because they're worried about getting seasick or are concerned that one of their kids could somehow fall overboard. I can't believe they think that. I tried explaining that these days cruise ships are designed to make accidentally falling overboard almost impossible. My convincing hasn't worked so far. Do you have any advice on what I can say or do to help them put their minds at ease? In your experience, what's the best way to reassure nervous first-time cruisers that they're going to have an amazing vacation? I'm getting angry thinking about this. Not at you, obviously, but it's like, this is unfortunately such a common misconception that is perpetuated by the mainstream media, because anytime somebody falls, and nobody falls off a cruise ship, anybody goes overboard, this is what happens. Okay, couple truths. Now listen, you all know, I'm going to say this for all of you. Nobody falls off a cruise ship. You either jump off a cruise ship or you're doing something stupid, like being somewhere you're not supposed to be. As an example, if you climb on top of a balcony railing, yes, you could fall because you're not supposed to be there. It's against the rules. And the balcony railing is made at such a height that it would be impossible to have what these people, your friends and family, are imagining, like this Scooby-Doo, like slipping on a banana peel, whoa, 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 and then whoop, over the board. It's impossible. I mean, the next time you're on a cruise ship, just belly up to the balcony. Just it's physically impossible without obviously somebody flipping you over, like again, throwing you overboard, you jumping, or you doing something you're not supposed to do. That's the end of the story. Now, I guess the best thing I could tell your friends is, the reality is the media likes to sensationalize this kind of news. There are certain stories in this world that will always make headlines because it just gets attention. And one of them are people going overboard on ships. And in many, 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 many cases, it's people acting stupidly or, unfortunately, taking their own life. It is I honestly, there is no example I can cite of somebody who, again, accidentally minding their own business, slipped, fell, bumped into something, and then went overboard. People have gone overboard for climbing on railings, for climbing on top of furniture, for accessing areas of the ship they're not supposed to. As long as they're not doing that, it is impossible to do that. And you need to also remind them that, go Google all the instances they could find, right? And they'll find 5, 10, and then cross-reference that number with how many years they had to go back in order to find those 5 or 10. And then figure out how many, think about how many cruises, how many ships, how many sailings have gone on without incident. This is not a prevalent problem. This is not a problem at all. This is isolated, very isolated examples of things that get national attention because if it bleeds, it leads. This is news media 101 in the 21st century. Bad news gets way more attention than good news, and people love to harp on this kind of stuff because it's like people who die at Disney World. It's the same idea. People have died at Disney World, but it is so minute and so obscure and so isolated. And yet when it happens, and true of all theme park accidents, boy, does it get attention because it makes you think. It's like shark attacks and bear attacks. They're so isolated, but it's one of those like unsubstantiated fears. Like you have this irrational fear about it because you never want it to happen to you, obviously. And it's in a scenario in which you could possibly imagine yourself being in. And that's why people get so scared of it. So I would simply tell them not to worry. Now, seasickness, here's what I would tell them. If they're truly worried about it, okay, no problem at all. Here's what you do. Go to your doctor, ask for the prescription for the Scalpamine patch. That's the patch you wear behind your ear. You put it on before the cruise. You wear it for the entire sailing. It works like clockwork. The side effect to it is they'll probably have cotton mouth, dry mouth. So just they'll have to drink a little bit more, but it is near foolproof, if I do say so. There are other remedies as well, but if they're really worried about it, that's the end all be all easy thing to do about it. So yeah, it's like, I'm with you, man. I get so angry when people bring this up as a realistic concern. You want to be concerned about things, geopolitical issues, costs, okay, I'm with you on that. I can understand where you're coming from. But the fear of falling over a cruise ship or getting seasick, and the seasick one, at least I understand where that's far more prevalent, but it's so easily managed. And that's why, I hope they see past that. And our last email today is coming to us from Jack Hornsby. Just disembarked an 8-night cruise on Symphony of the Seas out of Galveston. I invited a good friend of mine who had never been on a cruise before, and since we're both big foodies, we decided to splurge on the ultimate dining package. We definitely got our money's worth, eating at every single specialty restaurant, including Chef's Table, but not just in terms of food. We weren't charged for drinks at any of our meals, whether it was just a Coke or a $14 cocktail. At first I thought they might be using my diamond drink vouchers, but the next day I definitely used all 4 before dinner, and our drinks were still comped. I definitely tipped generously to show my appreciation, but it made me wonder if this is a common practice for passengers with the unlimited dining package. By the way, we didn't have any kind of drink package, only my 4 daily drink vouchers. Just wanted to know if you had experienced this before. Thanks, love the show. Jack, I can't say I have. I mean, it sounds like this is like that, reminds me of Monopoly. Bank error in your favor, collect $500. I can't explain it. It's definitely not the policy. It's definitely not a prevalent thing. And I can understand, like, if in one restaurant, some waiter was like, okay, I can't be bothered to run that Coke. But I am very surprised because drinks, they all get scanned in the computer. So I can't explain it. I wouldn't bet on it. I would bet you on your next Royal Caribbean cruise, whatever it is, if you did the exact same thing, dining package, no drink package, this would not happen to you. But hey, I'm glad it worked out for you, but it's definitely not a policy or anything I've experienced in my time. Again, like I have experienced rarely, like, if a bunch of people have a drink package and one person doesn't, sometimes it just gets lost in the shuffle. Other times also, if people are ordering cocktails and somebody orders a Coke, especially like if it's my kid, sometimes that gets like, we're not going to bother with that. But I wouldn't say it's a common or even an infrequent thing. It's never even heard of it. So yeah, well, I'm glad for you. I'm very happy for you. Thank you for the email. Thank you for everybody checking out this episode of the Royal Caribbean Blog Podcast. Of course, you can always email me your questions, Matt@RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com, Matt@RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com. Until next time, I'm Matt. We'll talk again real soon.